Nancy Pelosi making an appearance in the UK where she decided to just like randomly badmouth a bunch of progressives and talked about, according to the headline here, Pelosi warns Democrats of liberal menace ahead of 2020 vote. And this article is from AFP through yahoo.com. And it says, so she appeared in the UK, in London, and she said her Democratic Party must avoid the menace of liberal policies pushed by rising stars if it wants to beat Donald Trump in the 2020 election. It says the top congressional Democrat used an appearance at the London School of Economics to set out a centrist vision that could help woo Republican voters frustrated with Trump's approach. Dude, Hillary Clinton tried to do this and failed miserably. She just tried to get all the never Trump voters, and that didn't work out. That didn't work out at all. It completely blew up in her face because she ended up losing to Trump. And now Nancy Pelosi wants to do the same exact thing. She just wants to appeal to a bunch of like moderate, never Trump type voters. It says she followed standard U.S. Diplomatic protocol of senior officials not criticizing the president while abroad. Okay. But she made explicitly clear that new Congresswoman Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez, an emerging force in U.S. politics who was often simply referred to as AOC, and fellow young progressives elected in 2018, which is probably referring to like Rashida Tlaib and Ilhan Omar and stuff like that, represented only the margins of American society. She says, when we won this election, it wasn't in districts like mine or Alexandria's. Pelosi said in a reference to the November midterms in which the Democrats gained control of the House of Representatives. Those are districts that are solidly Democratic. This glass of whatever would win, whatever would win with a D next to its name in those districts, said the speaker after picking up a glass of, yeah, right. Yeah, it says she said in another set, she says, I can compare my liberal credentials across the board. I said to them, anything you're about, I got that sign in my basement 20 years ago. And I think this was an event where she said like, oh, this glass of water could beat Joe Crowley, the corporate Democrat that AOC defeated in her district in 2008 in the 2018 midterms. She said, "Well, this glass of water could defeat Joe Crowley." Okay, well, it's funny. You don't have a very high opinion of Joe Crowley, who you touted as being your number two or whatever. The next person that's going to take over is going to be taking over as House Speaker for you. And she heavily, obviously, supported him against AOC. So much for supporting fellow women. Obviously, that sentiment is complete bullshit. Whenever these female politicians say it, but she was happy to support that white guy, that old white dude, and over the young woman of color. But she compared Joe Crowley. All of a sudden, she doesn't think much of Joe Crowley, her BFF over there, Joe Crowley, and compares him to a glass of water or whatever. And she's claiming that it says, when we won this election, it wasn't in districts like mine or Alexandria's. Yeah, but the point is that Alexandria defeated Joe Crowley, who was absolutely dominating in the category of big money donors and the amount of money he was getting from fundraisers and corporatist fundraisers and people that rich people that donate to him and stuff. While Alexandria was just donating, she was just getting backing from Justice Democrats, Brand New Congress, all those people, Our Revolution. So Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez winning, Yeah, okay, she won her general election against whoever the fucking Republican guy was in that district, which was, I think, was it Bronx, I believe? Yeah. And she won that district easily against the Republican, because the Republican has no chance. But that doesn't mean that she didn't work her fucking ass off to beat Joe Crowley in a race that nobody thought she was going to win. So Pelosi is she's an idiot. She goes out there and pretends like, oh yeah, well, it was so easy for Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez to do that because, yeah, that's a, solidly blue district. Yeah, but she had to defeat a guy that was outraising her by like, what was it, like 4-1 or 3-1 or something? So, but yeah, like, Pelosi, she's such an idiot. God. And then it says Pelosi. What does it say? It says Pelosi is officially in London to gauge progress in Britain's stalled efforts to withdraw from the European Union after 46 years. But her stay has coincided with an ugly war of words that has pitted Donald Trump against the new breed of Democrats like Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez and Ilhan Omar. Trump accused Omar, the first black Muslim woman elected to Congress, in a tweet Monday of making anti-Semitic slurs. Let's see, making anti-Semitic, anti-Israel, and ungrateful U.S. hate statements. Yeah, well, this is something that this is an article from about a few weeks ago. That's why, yeah, because I remember a lot of this story, a lot of this stuff that was said. But anyway, let's continue here. It says, their latest spat concerns Omar's remarks about the treatment of American Muslims since 9/11, the 9/11 terror attacks on New York and Washington. Yet Omar's comments about U.S. political backing for Israel being fueled by money from a pro-Israel lobbying group led to criticism from both sides of the political aisle. Yeah, because everybody freaked out because Omar had the nerve to criticize AIPAC, which does not represent all Jewish people. And a lot of Jewish people will say that. A lot of people on the left, they know that AIPAC supports right-wing, Israelis like Netanyahu. Obviously does his bidding, caters to all the Republicans, all the right-wing Republicans and conservatives that are in favor of, Israel, massacring innocent Palestinian civilians. And then it's also said here, Pelosi used a meeting with Britain's opposition Labour Party leader, Jeremy Corbyn, on Sunday to speak out against anti-Semitism. Yeah, because a lot of people in the UK believe that Jeremy Corbyn is anti-Semitic, anti-Jew, because he also criticizes Israel. God forbid anybody does that either in the United States or the UK, apparently, and you get called an anti-Semite. So even Bernie Sanders, who is Jewish, who, again, like I said before, his family did survive from the Holocaust, he's apparently anti-Semitic too because he criticizes Israel. As usual, fucking bullshit. None of that shit is true. What else here? Let's see. She's tweeted, says, Pelosi tweeted after the meeting that she and Corbyn discussed the importance of protecting human rights and the necessity of forcefully confronting anti-Semitism and Islamophobia. Corbyn has been under pressure from Jewish groups to more thoroughly investigate and clamp down on anti-Semitic incidents involving Labor members. But Pelosi also stuck up for Omar in her current standoff with Trump. I don't think any president of the United States should use the tragedy of 9/11 as a political tool. So, I mean, Pelosi, when it comes to, as usual, when it comes to like what she says and who she attacks, she always likes to do like bipartisan attacks against progressives, but then she also says, oh, well, yeah, obviously whatever the Republican says is really bad too. So she's just like, she is a bipartisan smear merchant, essentially, in many ways. Because initially when Ilhan Omar did come out against AIPAC and called it Israel and stuff like that, Pelosi you barely ever even heard a peep about that. But she said, she made a lot of statements, and so did a lot of other Democrats. You made a lot of statements about how, well, anti-Semitism is a really bad thing, and we need to fight against it. Yeah, of course you do. But what Ilhan Omar said, which is, if some of you may have forgotten, she talked about how the Republican Party and I don't know, just regular Democratic Party too. I guess I think she was just referring to both parties in general, how they have foreign allegiance, or they have dual allegiance to the Israel and America, because they want to do Israel's bidding. So they want to do the bidding of the Israel lobby. They want to do the bidding of Benjamin Netanyahu. They don't care about, Palestinians, innocent Palestinian people that are being killed with, obviously, all these idiots claim as Hamas and all these terrorist groups, which is not. It's just a bunch of innocent people that are living in, in that territory in Gaza and Palestine and stuff, which obviously now is being taken over by Israeli settlements. But she, said that the Republican Party, Democratic Party, all these different politicians in America have dual allegiance to Israel, while obviously supporting whatever America does. But if Israel says to jump the politicians in this country just ask how high, and they'll do whatever the Israel lobby will do. Whatever the Israel lobby will say. And Ilhan Omar points that out, and she gets called an anti-Semite for it, even though she's speaking the truth. So, I mean, when it comes to these kind of things, just like with Bernie, when these kind of people talk the truth, speak the truth, all these people just get outraged about somebody speaking the truth. And they just get outraged about how somebody, has the nerve to say something about, the establishment, or the powerful elites. And if you have the nerve to anger them, then you are something. You're anti-Semitic, or you're sexist, or you're racist. Just like Bernie Sanders, when he called out the kind of the pro-women groups like Planned Parenthood and stuff, when they endorsed Hillary Clinton, even though Bernie Sanders has just as good, if not a better, record on women's issues and women's rights as Hillary Clinton does. But they endorsed her quickly right away, and when criticized by Bernie Sanders, they said he's sexist, and it's an unfair attack, and it's a veiled threat, or I don't know, a bunch of stupid accusations. But yeah, like the same shit happens with criticisms of Israel. They say, oh, well, you're anti-Semitic now because you're criticizing the Israel lobby. Not necessarily, nobody criticized Israel. Nobody, even though there's tons of shit to criticize Israel on, nobody necessarily said Israel as a country is horrible. The government certainly is terrible. Netanyahu, all those people. The Likud party in Israel is horrible. But nobody criticized the actual Israeli people, the citizens. Nobody is going against them. It's the government that's committing all these horrible atrocities of Palestinians, and is pushing the American government to push for policies that benefit them. It's all to benefit Israel. Ultimately, it's just to benefit Israel. It's to benefit Netanyahu, and it doesn't have anything to do with benefiting actual people. And it's definitely not benefiting the people in Israel. And, even the people in Israel who live there and are safe from Hamas or rocket fire from Hamas and whatever terrorists that are in Palestine, they're not, because the more you enrage the Palestinian people, the more you enrage Hamas and all these different groups, the more they're going to have a reason to go after to go after innocent Israeli people who aren't, maybe they're not against the Palestinians, but people, they become casualties amidst stupid fights that shouldn't be happening, and that's how it happens. So, all the people that were killed on 9/11, for example, or the people that were killed in the Boston Marathon bombing, all these different things, these are not like all the people that were killed are not like anti-Muslim or not anti, the Tsarnaev brothers that committed the Boston bombing were also Muslim. They were from Chechnya, I believe, Dagestan or Chechnya, I believe, and they were Muslim, but those, but that's the thing. Those terrorists believe that those American people, whether they're, they were in the buildings and the World Trade Centers, and they were, wherever they were at the Boston bombing, they thought those people were anti-Muslim, and, so everybody across the board gets framed as being anti-Muslim because the president of the country or whatever, at that time was Bush. During the Boston Marathon bombing, was Obama. Now, Obama was never really like anti-Muslim, but he was bombing 7 different countries at once for sure. And, it gets those people angry, and it gets them to lash out and, kind of hate Americans because of what their government does. But I think a lot of people in America don't hate the Israeli people for what the Israeli government does. I know I don't. So you got to be an idiot to think the Israeli people are responsible for what Netanyahu does. That's obviously not the case. But ultimately, Pelosi coming out and, somewhat defending Omar and then but criticizing her, what she said before and stuff, is just ridiculous. On top of the fact of her, her attack on AOC, as I mentioned, being about the districts that won, they were winning, the districts that Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez won was not the district that people should be worrying about. But no, in reality, you do need to worry about, though at least not that district necessarily, but that race specifically, where AOC did defeat somebody that she was not supposed to defeat, and she's pushing for much more progressive policies than that guy Joe Crowley, who previously represented the district, was representing as a congressman. So, I mean, a lot of it, all this kind of just comes down to Nancy Pelosi being a better representative of the Democratic Party, which a lot of progressives are trying to get her to be, but she's not. And, I hope she's not going to, at some point, I just hope she retires or somebody beats her so that she can be so she's no longer Speaker of the House. I just can't stand Nancy Pelosi. She doesn't represent any of the ideals that progressives have pushed for. She claims, I was progressive 20 years ago, and I had a sign in front of my lawn pushing for progressive policies a long time ago, whatever, or a sign in my basement, whatever. Yeah. So no, you did. Maybe you did back then, but what does that have to do with now? I don't give a shit what you were believing 20 years ago. I give a shit what you care about now. And obviously she doesn't believe in any of the progressive ideals that we are pushing for. If she was, she wouldn't be taking big donor money. She wouldn't be, kissing up to Donald Trump to try and get him to vote for policies voting for his policies while, saying why don't you support what I do? But he's not. So why are you so worried about getting Trump's support? You're never going to get Trump's support. He's never going to advocate for anything that you're advocating for. So you're either too stupid to notice that, or you just don't give a fuck. While tearing down progressives like Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez, Ilhan Omar, Rashida Tlaib, all these different people.